Are we live?
I think well,
I think
almost,
we're okay.
or maybe it says done. Redirect. We're live.
All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the weekly roundup for January 26th, 2024. Terry and I were talking before we went live about, there's, coming up on the end of January, people are pretty strong right now that we've been talking to, but now the attention is being turned to what to do for Valentine's Day. We had a post in the YC about ideas for maybe a Valentine's event, a share the love, and what ideas people have. And, we were talking about, we did a whole marketing calendar and like pre-planning is always a good idea. We did this back in October. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of you guys probably do have these events planned, but it's not too late. If you haven't thought about what to do for a February event, some kind of engagement, then we can talk about it now, get something together real quick.
Yeah. Definitely.
One,
It's not, I mean, it's ideally you want to plan, and I hate you're looking at the absolute procrastinator. I think I've shared this before that I was the kid who was doing the book report the night before it was due. So I get that not liking to plan. However, as I've gotten older and wiser, go boomers, I am better at Hey, I got to give a shout out for my generation. Anywho, it's not too late to do something, particularly an engagement event. And a lot of these events don't have to require a real super heavy lift, like a free yoga weekend or something like that. And before we start talking about this, I want to give a shout out to one of Vicky's clients, Valerie. And Valerie, if you're listening, I am going to butcher your last name. Is it Groth or Growth? But you've been very active in the YC. And Valerie messaged her coach Vicky about how much she loves the roundup and how much valuable information and how much fun we have. So Valerie, I just want to give you a big heart for doing that. We really do appreciate that you commented to Vicky about that. And just wanted to put it out there, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the recording, if there are topics, we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today? So, and as you know, this is totally unscripted. So, and we even say things like poop and shit and fuck in here, especially when Josh is here. So they're totally unscripted. However, if there are some topics you'd like us to dive into, put them in the comments in the post that has the link and just tag me so that I make sure I can see it and just kind of keep a running list of that. So, okay, so done with that little infomercial there. Let's circle it back to what can we do for Valentine's Day? I like a couple of studios. Kristen Sapp at Orange Lotus is doing what she's calling the Share the Love. And I believe it's more of like a month-long thing. And Kristen, you can always type in if what exactly it is. And it's encouraging their existing members to bring a guest to class, which is a really good way to share the love. And one of the things I like about just sort of taking a share the love for Valentine or just for the month of February is like I used to do, bring your sweetheart, that kind of thing. And like I used to do it on Mother's Day and Father's Day, moms or dads practice free, things like that. And then I came to actually one of my clients brought it to my attention is that for certain holidays like a Father's Day, a Mother's Day, or Valentine's, it can be a really hard time for people, right? Particularly if they've lost a loved one or, have just gone through a nasty ass, split up. Been there, done that as well. And oftentimes we don't want to be necessarily reminded of it on that specific day. So that's why I kind of like the share to love. Bring anybody. It doesn't have to be whoever. It could be anybody you want to share your passion of yoga with. And and Kristen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think we talked about this. One of the things I like about what Kristen is doing, well, I know she's doing this with the guest pass, is just like a lot of people in their software, if someone has bought the drop-in rather than your whatever your intro offer is, hers happens to be direct to membership. Typically, if someone comes on the drop-in, you're going to try to, you not trying, you are going, yes, you are going to try to upsell them to your membership first month discount. And so like a lot of studios in their software, they've created like just that differential, that price differential. So they just take, let's say it's $30 for the drop in and 30 at $60 for the package, they'll just charge the client an additional $30. So one of the things that she and some of my other clients are doing is that if someone comes in on a guest pass, a buddy pass, whatever you choose, a comp class, whatever you choose to call it, it basically goes like this. Hey, Carol, we're so excited that your good buddy Josh brought you in to take class today. What most people do is our membership special. And because your good buddy Josh brought you today, it's only going to be $30 for your first month of unlimited classes. And then, as we say at the sales training, you zip it, right? So they're getting that. It's almost like you're taking that comp class, which has a value. It's typically tied, pegged to your drop-in, and you're just charging them that difference. Right. And then the other thing we coach about, and Carol, I'm sure you do this as well. Maybe you can talk to this because Carol just got back from the West Coast, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that training out there. Is your guest passes and your comp classes and your buddy passes, again, whatever you choose to call them. I think we talked about this. They are hot leads. So if you are not actively engaging with them to try to sell them the thing that you sell, one, you're missing a huge sale opportunity. And two, you just failed at helping that person discover the power of yoga and the fact that a yoga practice can transform lives. So that kind of feels kind of icky, right? We don't want that. Carol, what do you think?
Yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, we visited her studio
Yep.
a few months ago. Like she has regular guest passes. And my understanding is that the Share the Love month is instead of just a single class, if a member brings in a friend for the month of February, they get a whole week of
Yes.
yoga. I'm pretty sure
Yes.
it's,
Thank you. I knew I was
So
missing that. Yes,
yeah.
that's what I
So
was.
like that was the added like piece of this is
Yes.
like, yeah, what a great deal. They get a free week of yoga. And I know that Kristen's going to have all those follow-ups in
Yep.
place and her team is going to be ready to try to get those people onto membership. Like you said, Terry, like that is a hot lead. They have a friend that's already going there. You can, tie it into like do yoga with your buddy.
Buddy. Yeah.
And so those are really great leads. And yeah, if you're not giving them an offer when they walk in the door, what are we doing here, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I can say that one of the we did a challenge. I think Mara came up with this one. It's a really good one called Hearts to Clubs. And so it was a team challenge where people paired up and we it was you got a point, your team got a point for every class that they took between Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. So that's why it's Hearts to Club
Oh, I
Challenge,
love that.
right?
That's great.
So people would pair up, and if somebody didn't have a friend at the yoga studio, it was also a great, hey, let us know you need a buddy, and
Yep.
we will pair you up. And I'll tell you, the first year we did it, the team was put together. They didn't know each other, and they like rocked it and blew everybody out of the water. And it's basically a point system. So the highest points wins the challenge and they got free month of yoga for their next month. And then there were like fun bonus things they could do for points, like leave a 5-star Google review would give a point or whatever. And so it was really fun. And then we always ended ours on St. Patrick's Day with a juice, day
Green
of like
juice.
green juices. Exactly.
Love
So
it. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a fun one. And it's again, it's not a heavy lift. It's
Yeah.
just like creating the little sheet and pairing people up, and they were the ones to track their classes on their own. So it
Honor
just,
system. Yeah.
yeah. And it
Yeah.
was a really fun buddy challenge. It got people, like you come up with a team name, post it on Facebook and tag the studio, so those are fun engagement type of
I
situations too. It's
really
a
like
good one.
that. That's sort of a midwinter twist on the Turkey to the Tree challenge
Yeah.
or something like that. It's just
Yeah.
it's pure engagement. It can help. It does help with retention. And like to your point, I did that one time. I did a buddy challenge, and the same thing. Hey, if you need a buddy, let us know, and we'll pair you up. And the same thing is oftentimes you create friendships there
Yeah.
that last beyond the end of the challenge. So that's just like check the box double points,
Yeah.
right? One of my other clients, Heather Sheridan at Rebel Yoga, is she's going to do a March Madness challenge. Right? She's going to do a March Madness challenge between whenever it's, I forget the dates of March, it's from in whatever March to April 6th. Right?
Mhm.
So she's going to do sort of a March, not sort of, I'm going to do a March challenge, Madness challenge, kind of similar. It's based on, trying to boost people to practice more, and they just track their classes, and the goal is to practice a minimum time or increase your practice. And that she's rolling out again in what is March Madness starts the beginning of March, I think it is, something like that. Because it ends in the championship game is, I remember this from, is April 6th. So whatever that is, like 3 weeks or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that's another super fun way to get people engaged. And particularly if you did something like a free yoga weekend or open house or something in January or even early February, these, as we talked about in that marketing workshop we did back in the fall, that's an attraction event. And then when you go into something like this is a retention event. So particularly, even if you didn't do an open house or something in January, but you got a boatload of new people just because it's the January bump, this can be a good way to keep people engaged, whether it's, it doesn't matter whether it's a traditional intro offer that they're buying into the membership or a direct membership that they're opting out of. Again, if they're buying into it, it can be incentive. Oh, I want to keep going to do part of this. And if someone's thinking about canceling that second month, right, is that, I want to stick around for this. This should be fun.
Right.
So these are the type of things. And again, if you're just looking to stack these type of events throughout the year, you're ramping up so that when you get to the spring and things like that, you've got a very robust membership so that going into the summer, because this is one of my pet peeves, is like summertime. I just had this conversation with a client this week, is yes, attendance levels off in the summer. Absolutely. But that does not have to mean that your revenue drops off. Because if you've been doing all these events in the first half of the year and you've been marketing, we always say market when you're busy so you don't get slow. Then when the summer comes, if you've created all these events and excitement and buzz on all these other things, and we can talk about rolling into some type of summer challenge, then you're less likely, maybe people suspend, but maybe they're like, I'm not going to be around as much, but I still want to do this. So it's okay if I'm not practicing as much in the summer because I see the value of my membership. Carol, what do you notice about around that? I mean, I know we're kind of going from winter to spring to summer, but there we are.
No, exactly what you're saying. I think there is part of it is a mindset,
Yeah.
because I had that too, for sure, having a hot yoga studio, especially that like, well, it's just going to be that way. Then in the summer, everybody leaves and go, and it's like, I don't know, I had this flip in my brain, somewhere that it actually and doesn't have to be that way. When you create the value of being a member and you can prove that you're like when we're doing, pricing audit or,
Right.
that strategy, part of that is making them aware that even if they're coming two or more times a week, that's still our membership is still the best
Yeah.
deal. So, when they understand that and they can see the value, very much like less likely that they're going to cancel. Like you said, there is a little bit of that, but it doesn't have to be such a huge change from winter to summer. And
Yeah.
I've seen that specifically with my studio as well. Like coming on the other side of coming out of COVID, I think 2021, our summer months were
Banging.
higher. Yeah, it was the highest June, July that we had ever had. And we had been doing all these things, implementing a lot of this stuff. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be
It
that
does.
huge
Yeah.
drop.
For me, when I started, there was a combination of two things that kind of flipped my mindset. One was I instigated, or is that started a rewards program. And I was with Mind Body, and they have an integrated partner called Perkville, and I've talked about them before. And if you have Mind Body, it also hooks up with, I think, Fifth Degree. I'm not sure about all the others, but and you're interested in an amazing, uh, I feel, reward system, then definitely check out Perkville. I can post their link. It's just perkville.com. And I don't get any kickback for saying that because I don't need one, because they really helped me grow my studio. Oh, and the other thing that really helped me grow my studio as well is, guess what, Carol?
What?
What do you think it was that helped me really grow my studio?
I don't know, Terry, tell me.
Come on, girl, pick up that hook. It's what we do now, coaching.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, of
that's a
course.
given.
Oh, that was a given. Okay, okay, that was a given. So yeah, those two things, and I can tell you my summer month, June, July, and August, 2017, 18, and 19, because I sold my studio, as some of you know, during the pandemic, were better than my January, February, and March, and I was outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Whereas Carol's point, and it was a hot studio. It was hot, so hot, damn hot. We fried eggs on your stomach hot, is what I used to tell people. And we still had fabulous summers. And so it just goes to show it is sort of a shift in mindset. It's a shift in strategy. It's a shift in it does not, less attendance does not have to equal less revenue. One of the things we used to say a lot is, and I know a lot of students do this, is focus on, like Carol said, if you're just still coming consistently, maybe not as much as you were in the winter or the spring, but you're still coming, you're still maintaining, particularly with hot studios, we used to say, and in cold climates like we were in, is we would say summer, I mean, winter months are just maintenance, because you show up at the studio and your body's so cold and your muscles are so cold that it took the whole class for everything to open up, right? And that's, I think, true even in a non-hot studio, is your body, particularly in climates that are cold and they have, this thing called snow coming out of the ground, out of the sky. Um, it does take a while for your body and muscles to warm up. So we would say winter is the time for maintenance. And then we would say summer is the time for deepening your practice, because conversely, you show up even in the morning, it's warmer, your body is warmer. And again, this can apply to hot and non-heated yoga, is that people can get a little bit deeper into their practice, feel a little bit more of the stretch, make some strides to gain more flexibility if that's one of their goals, because your muscles are naturally more warmed up when you get to the studio. So these are all things and strategies you can start thinking about now in winter to help you as you move through the year.
Yes, messaging that to your students, I mean that's part of it. You can't just keep that to yourself. Like make a whole blog post about it, put videos out, Um, just thinking about that route too. You
Yeah,
can't,
no,
yeah.
that's awesome. And then the other thing to that is, yeah, blog posts, videos, Instagram posts,
Mhm,
things like that, is also work with your team to just organically weave that message into the sort of the culture of the studio. Is
mhm,
that as the teachers are teaching, they're talking about the value of a consistent yoga practice. And notice we don't say, we don't put any necessarily, we can say like 2 times a week. However, as I would always like to point out, particularly with, monthly recurring revenue, you can have an auto renew class card, or like a mini membership or a maintenance membership that still renews automatically. It's just not unlimited, because a consistent yoga practice is defined by someone comes consistently. Obviously, we know for a fact that the more people come, the more benefit they feel. However, and Carol, you can tell me if you had this at your studio, particularly with Bikram yoga. I had lots of like triathletes and marathoners and long distance cyclists. I talk about this all the time, that were never going to be unlimited members because that wasn't their primary thing, but they used their Bikram practice as their active recovery day. So they came consistently, they had a habitual yoga practice, I wish I had had an auto renewing card at that point, and I didn't, and I would now. But that's where you can also deploy just talking about the consistency, showing up consistent to get those benefits. Then we can talk about the frequency.
Mhm.
Then we can
Yeah.
talk about the intensity. But I think too often is we're really going off on a tangent. Probably because I'm prepping. Carol and I are going to be working together in an on-site at her old studio, Pure Hot Yoga in St. Louis. Her Ellen, and I always mess up her last name, Carol.
Metering house.
Needred House, the new owner, the person, the
Yeah.
lovely human that bought the studio from Carol and her partner. We are going out there. Well, Carol's already there, but I'm going out to St. Louis, Missouri, to do our yoga sales boot camp. So I'm super, super excited about that. Speaking of which, tell us what happened I know we're just really being around today. Tell us what happened you were at Rosa's studio at West Coast Sweat and at the
Yeah.
expo last weekend. We talked a little bit about that on Friday. Tell us a little bit give us the 401 scoop on that.
Okay, so well, the expo was really fun, and it was a lot of like, seeing the new products and people being innovative in the yoga space. And then you also had, people reading your energy and things like that. So it was really fun. We spent the most time, in our booth and saw a lot of studio owners come by, and it was really great to connect with them and see if we can help them, which I know we can. So yeah, it was really fun. Josh, Mara, and I just had a blast in California, and Terry, we were very missed. But yeah, I don't know. Mara did some great social posts, so check out Instagram and
Oh
see
yeah,
what kind of
there's
fun
some funny
we
ones.
got up to.
Yeah.
Um,
For
the
those of you who
the
don't know, Mara is our director of operations and our social media whiz. She's the Oz behind the curtain that makes all the rest of us look really good.
Yes, and at some point I try to get her on video. She's like, no, no, no. She doesn't want to be part of the video. So anyway, yeah, it was great. We connected with a lot of studio owners there and got to see some cool stuff that you might be seeing coming out soon. Then we shifted and went to Rosa's. Rosa has two studios
That's right. Just
in the California, yeah, and one in Hermosa Beach and one in Long Beach. We got to visit. I have my Hermosa Beach
I was wondering what that
t-shirt. Yeah, it's really cute. It has her logo on the back. And really for Rosa, we were talking about, with the two studios, two studio managers, we really dug down into getting her organizational chart together, and the accountability chart is actually the way we phrase it, and sort of like figuring out who should do what. It doesn't necessarily, I think, we talked about it with Rosa, and I think in her mind, having the two studios, they should be separate. And somebody, if it's kind of happening in one studio, then that manager should do it, that studio. And same thing, maybe this person should just be doing the same things just at the other studio, but not always, it doesn't always work out that way. If you could have one person that oversees a certain area, have an expertise in that area, let's say tech, they just like to learn about like technical things that could, help the studios. Like, let's put one person in that seat that's overseeing it at both locations, right? So we did a lot of that work, and it's challenging, but I think coming on out the other side was so great. And then in that, we tried to streamline and figure out the best communication tools for the staff and studio owners, because there, a lot of times where I had this too, like people texting me on a Friday night, but that is my personal space, and that takes away as an owner a lot. Like, I'm in my personal space here. I have this thing on my phone that I have to do right now because it was texted to me about the studio, and it can really, drain you as a studio
yeah.
owner. So getting some other, whether that's in particular is a communication piece of it. We were trying to figure out how to solve for that. We were solving for, task management. We're solving for, um, document storage, just all those pieces that really streamline the business and make it a business piece. And then how can we still give that nice work-life balance for the owner and the managers?
Yeah.
Because Rosa obviously wants her managers to also feel like they can have a life outside of the studio, be productive when they're there, you know. And so anyway, that was I
I like that.
kind of
And
rambled on,
also,
but that was the big piece that we were
no, I
working.
think that's great because also for the teachers too, because when you have a communication protocol or communication platform, it fully pulls it into the professional, and it makes you as the owner like this is a
Is
big human business.
yes, yeah,
This is a real business because all too often I'm not advocating you get, at Nomad Business at nomadstudio.com for every single teacher still have their personal email addresses, but when you use a communication tool like Slack, then they can control, it's not going to a text because a lot of times people are texting teachers, right?
mhm,
So that you're all texting
yeah,
or WhatsApping or things like that, which are really not professional tools. They spill over into the personal. And Carol's right. You see a text on your phone from a staff member or something like that, it's hard to ignore it.
yeah,
Whereas with something like Slack, you can designate your notifications so that I don't want anything notified. I don't want to get any notifications between this time or this time. Or if I did that, I took the first week, I happened to have a very light week, the first week of the year, knowing that this quarter was going to be very busy. I decided to reward myself and I took that week off. And I muted my notifications and everything. So nothing for Nomad came through. Right now, having said that, if there's absolutely an emergency, then yes, you tell your crew, pick up and call me on the phone, right? If,
well, and we talked about
yeah,
escalation. Like
yeah,
there should be an SOP, there should be
I
an
love that.
understanding about like how do we escalate something if necessary. Like if somebody is calling you on the phone,
It's been escalated.
it is an emergency and you
Yeah.
should pick up as the owner. But you know, we're out of toilet paper should not be texted, and so yeah, and those are the things that just like it's like little paper cuts over and over and
Oh,
just
yeah.
bring
It's
you over.
death by a
So
thousand paper cuts, right?
yes, yes. And so we
So
talked um,
yeah,
tried
so
to
I'm guessing that because this is our recommended, did you guys come up with a tech stack we typically use, or did you come up with something? Because typically we recommend Slack for communication, Asana for task management, and Google Drive for storage. So it sounds
right,
like those three. And again, the reason we recommend those three is because we use those three and we've gotten to use them, we understand them, and there are free versions of both Slack and Asana. And we at the here at the YC, we started off with the free versions. And then within, I don't know how many months or a year or so, we upgraded to the paid versions because again, it had more functions that we're now using. And one thing we run across with when studios start to use Slack is the teacher's like, well, I don't want another app on my phone. And this is where you explain, this is taking it out of the personal, putting it in the professional,
mhm,
right? And so that's where the communication goes. And then the other thing that I find oftentimes interesting, most studios will have that, but sometimes I'm still surprised by how many studios don't have a studio or at least under their owner at Nomad Business Yoga, Nomad Yoga, whatever, um, Google Drive. It's all tied to their personal.
right,
So setting up, I just had this conversation with a client yesterday, is setting up the Google Workspace
right,
so that, and again, I say you don't need to we don't recommend, advise that every teacher or even every front desk person have an individual email. But if you have, like in Rose's case, you have two assistant managers, absolutely. Those two people should have their own, Carol at and Terry at. And
yeah,
then typically it's like your personal, whatever that is, Carol at, and then like a hello at. Maybe a good one to have is a membership app,
mhm,
membership at, so
yeah,
that anything with membership can go to that. And you could have a front desk at, but I really think that hello at and membership at, and then your own personal, and then unless you have like a manager that really needs to have your studio at. Those three are I think are plenty. Carol, what do you think? I mean, that covers pretty much everything, don't you think? Or
It does. Yeah. I mean, and you're right. We talked about all those things, and those are generally the recommended, tech stack that we go with. But, Rosa and her team were using, I think, Crew for
oh
communication.
yeah,
But the problem was they weren't really using it. So
yeah,
like we did a lot of chatting about like, well, can Crew do what you need it to
yeah,
do? And is it just a matter of getting the team and you guys, because the managers and Rosa were not necessarily using it in that way either. So what good is it doing you? You
yeah,
know? So
exactly.
just wanted to say that. But yeah, as far as getting certain email addresses, I think that those are the main ones, like an
Yeah,
info and a membership and maybe a personal here
yeah,
and there where you need it.
where you need it. Yeah,
Um,
you know, because I know with Workspace, you pay per email that you have. So if I think it's $6 or I forget. I actually pay one because I do have for my consulting coaching. I was starting off before I hooked up with Josh. I still have it. And I'm considering just getting rid of it, but because a lot of people have that email address. But anyway, so it's like $6 a month or something like that. And I
it's not
think it's
bad,
one of those expenses that again, it puts you into that big human category of this is a real business.
right?
This is takes it again out of the realm of personal and puts it into the realm of yes, this is a business. And to Carol's point, you got to use the tool.
Yeah.
And we're to the point now with the YC is we do not email each other at all. Everything we do is in Slack. The only time we email a colleague or is if a client emails us and we need to CC someone or forward it to someone so they can see the email. And actually with Josh now, he's like just copy paste it into Slack for me because I won't even look at it if it's in my email box.
Yeah, and at the same time, sometimes we'll also like in Slack, hey, I emailed you
Yeah,
because we just don't, check out the email I sent because
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I'm sure the way that they were working before two studios probably worked to some degree, but as you expand and have more people with you, it is necessary. So I know I've worked with a studio or two that's still in the infancy a little bit. Like they haven't been open even a year and they don't have these things in place. And it's kind of like, yep, I know. So I take it from us, like these things, if you set them in place early and your team is used and you have that expectation there, it's so much easier to have that as you grow instead of like, okay, now
yeah,
we're doing something new with the whole team. They all, anytime there's change, people kind of freak out a little bit. But
yeah, exactly. And
um,
that's just that, I was going to say that. And I'm glad you said, because the reality is whether if you're brand new starting out, let me give you a secret. You're still a real business and you should treat it like a real business because if you don't, you're fucked. I'm channeling Josh. Josh, I'm
yes,
channeling you. Because to Carol's point, exactly. It's easier to set it up in the beginning than have to go back and scramble. And that is something I absolutely learned a huge lesson from. It's far, far easier to just say, this is how we do it. This is how we do it, as opposed to trying to change. And
mhm,
this also applies to I bought a studio. So there's an interesting I mean, there's definitely a difference, and there's pros and cons to both of starting a studio from scratch and buying an existing location, right? Because obviously when you start a studio from scratch, you make all the decisions from day one. And Carol, I mean, you know this, and then and when you buy a studio, you sort of inherit a bunch of stuff. And while you want to tread, you don't want to go in with a big stick, and oftentimes, I would say our good friend Mitch McGinley, who was our go-to guy, if you want to sell your yoga studio, Mitch is the guy, boutique fitness broker. He is the guy. He sold my studio twice. He sold your studio. He sold a bunch of people's studios in the YC. Anyway, Oh God, another boomer senior moment. Where was I going with this thought? Oh, the thing is that you do want to come in not with a big bat swinging. You want to, go in. Oh, I was saying a lot of times that's what I was going with the Mitch comment is he will tell you that the majority of the time this yoga studio will sell to from someone, either a teacher or someone within the community. So typically it was in your case, it was in my case. So anyway, so you already are kind of part of the community, and you sort of have to tread a little lightly when you come in. You don't want to go in with a big bat and start swinging and upset the apple cart and all those, whatever you want to say. However, it still doesn't mean you can't start changing things. And if some of these things are not set up, to still take that little bit of chaos of change, because everything's changing already and everybody's a little nervous and anxious about the change, you might as well change some of these things at the same time and just kind
Rip
of
the Band-Aid off.
rip the Band-Aid off. I always go back to something that Josh, he said years ago. I don't know if he was coaching this guy, if Josh was coaching yet. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember what he said. This dude bought, as Josh was saying, this dude bought a yoga studio. He went in and fired everybody.
I was about to say, like, sometimes swinging the bat is the strategy, you
Yeah,
know?
can be the tree. Yeah, he
So-
did. And then everybody then had to reapply.
Mhm.
And that can be an effective strategy too, because you get everything you want done your way. You go in, you fire everybody, and then you say if you want to stay working for this new entity, you need to apply. Because
Yeah,
the reality is that when the owners change, they really are under no obligation to keep the employees unless it's negotiated in the deal. They're under no obligation to keep the employees. It's like it's a new legal entity. They no longer, whether they're independent contractors or employees. If I sell my studio to Carol, they were employed by my yoga studio, and now they're employed by Carol's yoga studio. That is a different legal entity. Therefore, it's a different day. They are not technically employed by Carol unless she chooses to employ them. So
yeah,
yeah, that can be a strategy,
yeah.
to shake things up and
I
see.
think if that was the strategy of a new owner, they would probably have already owned a stu like they would have had a lot of experience, I
Yeah,
feel like, you know, and known they would know exactly how they wanted to run things. And so it doesn't seem like that's always the case though,
yeah,
where I think it's more like I'm just gonna step in here as the new owner, get my feet wet, figure everything out, and
yeah,
then that's how the change
yeah.
typically what I've seen
Typically, yeah, that's
happens.
that's how well, no, I basically skipped town practically in the middle of the night because I did sell my business at the very beginning of, as some of you heard, I sold my business twice. Once before the pandemic, and we were scheduled to close the 18th of March 2020, and we shut. That's when everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, and that fell through. And then fast forward, that was March, and that fell through. And then fast forward that summer, I did sell it again for a second time, and that deal went through really quickly. It was at that point, it was like, this is the deal. It was sort of like take it or leave it. And they're like, okay. It was pretty much a cash sale, which made it super easy. There was no loans involved, anything like that. So from start to finish, it was 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So we announced it on July 21st, the 21st of July in 2020. And you should have seen everybody's jaws drop on Zoom. All my because I announced it to my teachers first, and of course it was the pandemic. We were locked down. I couldn't meet with them in person. So, and those that weren't able to make Zoom, I called them on the phone. If they didn't pick up, I left the message because we made the announcement that night. 3 weeks later, my pod was packed and I was heading to Ohio.
Wow.
Yes. And because it was COVID, there was no going away party there. And actually, I was fine with that.
Yeah.
And for me, it made it so much easier emotionally to just go, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
out of here. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting, I don't know. Well, I'm a seven, so I like to tell stories.
Go for it, Terry.
Okay, well, I don't know. We've been kind of just going down all kinds of rambling paths here today, Carol. Super excited to work again with you next week at the
Same.
on-site.
Yeah,
And
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, and we do have, if you're interested in what this on-site is, you can message any of us in the YC. Basically, we call it our 3-day yoga sales boot camp, where we come in and we do our sales training and role playing, and we get your front desk and your teachers totally dialed on how to sell your intro offer, whatever that may be, and then how to go about what we like to call flipping resistance, is to turn the objection of why they don't want to do the thing into the reason why they want to do the thing. And we do still have some spots available for this year. And if you, again, if you're at all interested, you can reach out to me, Carol, Josh, just let us know. We'll be happy to talk to you about it. It's every one of my clients who's done it is like, and I'm not blowing smoke your team. What they all say, it's the best thing I ever done. And the proof is in the pudding, because most of them pay for it within a couple of months and increase sales.
Yep.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. I had one client did in 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
6
awesome.
weeks, just with the
Yeah.
increase of converting drop-ins and guest passes to their intro offer.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's great.
So there we have it for the last, yes, this is the last Friday of January. So think about, again, we talked about intro offers. We talked about some strategies around things to do this winter. We talked
And
about
then
late summer. We talked about
marketing events, like
marketing
post
events.
below your ideas for your
Yes,
February, challenges or events or something that could increase engagement. Yeah, post
yeah,
that. Let us know what you're
yeah.
doing.
Share the love with us.
Yeah.
And then this while you're doing, post what you might be doing this summer. And then, of course, as I said, the top of the hour is if you'd like us to cover any specific topic, let us know. As you can see, we're pretty free form, and no topic is off limits. And well, no, except for one. I'm sorry.
But maybe we can't mention it. That which shall not be
Well, it's
named.
an election year. We're not going to go
Oh
down
no, no, no,
that
we don't.
rabbit. That is one topic that is totally off limits. We're not going to go there. But other than that, it's like this morning in class, we talked about poop in class, right? We talked about the benefits of pooping. And are you pooping? Are you pooping enough? And what do you do if you don't poop? And what if you do if you poop too much?
Maybe we take that one off the list too.
I don't know. Pooping is important. Anyway, well, Carol, I don't know about you, but I had fun.
I did too, Terry. My
All right.
favorite
Well,
seven.
yeah. Hey, YC, thanks so much for showing up today. Again, we are here to support you. We are here to help you run an insanely profitable yoga studio. And we are all committed and passionate to help you do that. So reach out anytime. And for those who don't have a coach, you can always book a free coaching call with either Carol, myself, or Vicky, and we're happy to help you out. Go do some yoga, stay safe, be kind, be well, and be yourself.
Have a great day.